Did you know that Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix, but they didn't?
His words is they laughed him out of the room.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 companies that started out of spite or rage.
For a while, Sony and Nintendo tried to piece together a workable deal, but it just wasn't meant to be. So in 1992, Sony gave up on working with Nintendo.
For this list, we'll be looking at some of the biggest companies and products that were formed out of revenge for a past misdeed. Which company was formed for the pettiest reason? Let us know below. Number 10, Virgin Atlantic. We've all been on the receiving end of an airline's bad decision, but Richard Branson took it to another level back in the early 80s. He was waiting in Puerto Rico for a flight to the British Virgin Islands to go to his place of paradise, Necker Island, where a woman was apparently waiting for him. However, the American Airlines flight was suddenly canceled. Infuriated, Branson called Boeing and asked to rent a second-hand plane from them as he was thinking of starting his own airline. Stranded passengers then snapped up the $39 tickets he was offering. So when associates approached Branson later with an offer to buy into what would later become Virgin Atlantic, he jumped at the chance.
So Richard Branson launched Virgin Atlantic at Gatwick Airport.
Number 9, Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing. After years of working in France for the Continental Edison Company, Nikola Tesla arrived in the U.S. to work at the Edison Machine Works.
Edison, perhaps one of the most famous inventors in the world at the time, gave the young inventor his first job in his new home.
After meeting with Edison, Tesla got to work. But within 6 months, Tesla wasn't paid the bonuses he was promised.
Edison immediately gives him a challenge. I have all these generators failing all over the city. Nobody can fix them, so you do it. If you do it, I'll give you a $50,000 bonus.
In his autobiography, Tesla claims that he was promised $50,000, around $1.5 million today, only for the manager of the company to claim it was a practical joke. Other stories claim it was Edison who stated this. Regardless, Tesla left. He went on to form the Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing and patented many inventions and concepts.
He quit because it wasn't just that he felt cheated by Edison, he felt soiled by Edison's greed.
Later, Tesla even joined up with the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company, which rivaled Edison's company for years. Number 8, Lamborghini. Sometimes all it takes is a moment of anger to spark a new idea in someone. After serving in World War II, Ferruccio Lamborghini succeeded in building a tractor empire in Italy.
After the war, he went stealing military vehicles, removing the engine, and building tractors for the farmers.
With all the extra cash in his pocket, he splashed out on a Ferrari. But the clutch was problematic, and Lamborghini had it fixed several times. Losing his patience, he went to the founder of the car company, Enzo Ferrari. Lamborghini told him about the problem and offered suggestions to improve it. Ferrari didn't take the criticism well and basically told him to stick with tractors.
And he was very upset about the story, and he told him, I will make my own car and I will show you how the clutch must operate.
So Lamborghini went away and created his own car company in 1963, becoming a major rival of Ferrari.
Lamborghini presents new Huracan Technica.
Number 7, The Gap. We've all been to the store to get clothes, then become annoyed when our size isn't there. But property developer Donald Fisher didn't just sulk, curse a few times, and move on like us. Back in the 60s, Fisher went to return a pair of Levi's jeans that didn't fit.
Jeans, especially Levi's, boomed in the 1960s and 70s due to what fashion historians call the casualization of the American wardrobe after World War II.
He then realized that there was a big gap in sizes in the shop's stock. Not happy, Fisher and his wife Doris created The Gap in 1969. The store originally acted like Levi's warehouse by stocking all designs and sizes, and even had records to appeal to the youth.
By 1975, it had 186 stores in 21 states and sales of $100 million.
But today, it's a fashion brand on top of being a general clothes store. Number 6. Activision. When Atari was purchased by Warner Communications, the startup game company became more corporate.
The video game that lets you help E.T. get home. Just in time for Christmas.
So in 1979, a memo was sent around the office that highlighted which games were selling well. However, as games at the time were headlined by one-person teams, it showed the value of each employee. Some people saw that their games had generated 60% of $100 million cartridge sales in a year and were angered that they were only getting $20,000.
And Atari, the working conditions had really started to fail.
Nicknamed the Gang of Four, David Crane, Alan Miller, Larry Kaplan, and Bob Whitehead approached management to get design credits and royalties. When they were turned down and insulted, the gang walked away from Atari and created the video game publisher Activision.
We were either just going to go and become a development house, one of the only ever, first ever, and just develop back for Atari and make twice as much money because they had to pay more for outside development.
Number 5. Adidas and Puma. Sibling disagreements don't usually cause a town to be split and rival companies to form.
Wir sind beide der Meinung, dass es an der Zeit ist für eine Veränderung, einen Neubeginn.
Deswegen haben wir beschlossen, die Firma Dassler Sportschuhe aufzuteilen.
But that's what happened with the Dassler brothers Adolf and Rudolf in Germany. After running the successful shoe company Gebrüder Dassler Schuhfabrik, or GEDA, for decades, the two had a falling out in 1948 and the company was closed. One reason, among others, is that Rudolf accused Adolf of being responsible for his conscription during World War II, which he denied. Rudolf quickly created Puma, and Adolf made Adidas not long after.
Adidas? Was soll denn das jetzt?
Hat seine Vor- und seine Nachnamen kombiniert.
This caused the town of Herzogenaurach to choose sides, since most citizens worked at either company. By 2009, the hatchet was buried between Adidas and Puma when their respective CEOs played in a friendly soccer match.
Puma, typisch für meinen Bruder, hält sich für eine Raubkatze.
Number 4. Sony Interactive Entertainment. Imagine shunning someone who then turns around to become your biggest rival. Well, Nintendo learned this the hard way. Back in 1991, Sony announced they were working with the video game developer to create a new version of the Super NES that contained a CD drive, the Nintendo PlayStation. The two companies had been working on this console since 1988, but suddenly, the day after the announcement, Nintendo canceled the partnership and instead joined forces with Philips, sending shockwaves through the Japanese business community.
By the time CES rolled around in 1991, Sony was ready to show off its PlayStation prototypes, and as the story goes, that's when Nintendo pulled off one of the most infamous moves in gaming history.
Nintendo was seemingly concerned about Sony's ambitions in the industry. Angered by the betrayal, Sony kept working. They created Sony Interactive Entertainment and formed the PlayStation, which was released in 1994 and changed the video game industry.
It's got 2 megabytes of RAM and 1 megabyte of video RAM. So at the time in 1995, a very powerful piece of hardware.
Number 3, Liverpool FC. In modern times, Everton has watched as their city soccer rivals Liverpool have won titles and competitions. But what makes it worse is the fact that they were responsible for the team's formation.
For others it's sport, for us it's a way of life. They have a stadium, we have a home. They have songs, we have an anthem.
Back in 1884, Everton was playing their matches at the stadium Anfield, owned by John Holding. However, Holding kept putting the rent up. During a meeting, he proposed that the club buy Anfield, but Everton wasn't keen and proposed a long-term rent. Holding agreed, but only if the rent was a lot higher. By 1892, the Everton directors walked away from Anfield and created a new base, Goodison Park. Holding, now with an empty stadium, decided to form Liverpool FC. Within 9 years, Liverpool won the First Division title.
These are our colors, our flags, our pubs, our gates, our mates, our crest, our words, which stand alone.
Number 2, Netflix. Back in the day, Blockbuster was the reigning champ in the entertainment rental market. One famous tale is that Reed Hastings, one of Netflix's co-founders, was inspired to create the streaming juggernaut after getting a $40 late fee from Blockbuster. But what really spurred the company to take the industry by storm was when they offered to sell Netflix to Blockbuster in 2000 for $50 million, only to get laughed out of the meeting.
Take it all, $50 million.
John had an opportunity to acquire Netflix.
Was that possible?
Yes, in 2000. Well, I don't. It's back in those days. Yeah, it was possible.
Similarly, if Napster hadn't gone under and left a gap, Daniel Ek might never have co-founded Spotify. Unhappy with the alternatives in place, he created a service that better suited the needs of a huge audience.
Spotify has been on a winning streak recently with the acquisition of Joe Rogan's incredibly popular podcast, along with exclusive deals with Kim Kardashian and DC Comics.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Disney.
He walked through the door and, pins would drop. You couldn't hear anything. His personal power walked right with him. You knew you were sitting with Walt Disney.
Although the Disney company wasn't formed out of a spiteful situation, it was a spiteful situation that led to its ultimate success. Walt Disney had created the character of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and his company created the initial cartoons for Universal Pictures. When Disney requested more cash, the counteroffer he received was actually for less cash. To add insult to injury, the studio promptly hired most of Disney's staff and let Disney know that they now own the rights to Oswald. Enraged by this betrayal, Disney and his remaining animator, Ub Iwerks, developed Mortimer Mouse, who would later go by Mickey Mouse, and rule the animation industry in the States. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.